Hey y'all, welcome to Culture Cult. My name's Marie. I am the host of the show, and this is part 2 of Marco Polo and the Kublai Khan series. I cannot lie to you. Me and Danny at this point had been recording for maybe 3 hours or more. So this episode is a bit unhinged. I'm just giving you a forewarning. Enjoy the episode. We are back.
Hi.
For y'all, it's the second episode, but for us, we're still talking.
Can't stop, won't stop.
So we ended on Marco Polo and Daddy. They're going to go see Kublai Khan. And Marco Polo's about to have the fucking trip of his life.
Yes.
So Marco Polo finally found his dad. They're setting off from Italy to go to Asia. If you need some help to look at how far that is, look it up on a map. Seriously, bring up a map. I think we know what that looks like, but we're not actually getting the visuals. Just type in the word Italy into your Google Maps. Now find Mongolia.
Oh my God.
That's how freaking far their trip is about to be.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder how long that would take on a plane. I'm about to look it up.
Yeah, look that up.
Flight from Italy to Mongolia. 12 hours, 40 minutes, 15 hours, 15 and a half, 16 hours.
Wow. This is a very long distance. And I don't know if Marco Polo understands that capacity yet because he thinks he's on a road trip with his dad. They're going to take camels. They're going to take boats. They're going to take horses. But this is the route. So I think the best way to describe this is from the Travels of Marco Polo book, which someone wrote about his life. This quote goes, "Nearly every step of their way was full of danger. On sea, they traveled in frail sailing vessels with no compass to guide them. They kept as close to the shore as they could. The seas were traversed, swarmed with pirates, massive storms, and enemies. When they did get to land, they made their journeys on foot, horseback, and camels, and they're always traveling with caravans in fear of robbers. Then you had to do the mountains. The mountain passes were very difficult and often buried in snow. They crossed vast deserts where there was still little water and food for man or beast." End quote. So every single possible terrain or situation they went through.
Yeah. Damn. If he's leaving at 17 years old, how old is he going to be when they get there?
Well, I know the dad said he was gone for 10 years on the Silk Road, which is the route that they're taking.
Round trip?
Yeah. So I feel like it would take a few years at least to get to this destination. And remember, this is just because the Khan was like, I want to learn about Christianity. And then he sent them on this massive fucking trip to go get some oil. What if they do all this and they show up with the stupid oil and the 2 monks they've held hostage at this point, and the Khan is like, who are y'all? He's like, I don't remember asking you that.
Yeah. Honestly, who has the patience?
Literally.
Lose my shit when the internet's not fast enough to pull up. But no, you have a question, you have to wait years to maybe get the answer. What if they die?
That would be me if I was an emperor.
That is literally the definition of you as an emperor. I'd love to hear about that. Go ahead, go find for me. Comes back, literally fought for their lives, lost all of their friends and family along the way, lost best friends to fucking woolly mammoths and shit. And they make it to you and you're like, we met? Do I know you? And you'd be like, well, tell me anyways. What'd you find?
I would literally be like, I'm so sorry. I can't remember who you are.
You don't even let security let them in. I literally don't know these guys. Don't let them in.
That's what's crazy about the situation is they are doing all of this just because the Khan was like, I want some olive oil. I'm really dumbing it down. He wanted something very holy, some sort of oil that was holy.
Holy.
Say that 3 times fast. Holy oil.
Holy oil.
Holy oil.
Holy oil.
Good job.
Oh.
Well, I'm just saying that's their task and they're risking their life for this. So
I thought it was for a spatula.
No, it's for the oil of the holy specular.
Oh, I see.
But I probably am pronouncing it wrong and you said spatula. So we really dumbed this whole thing down. And now I'm just calling it olive oil. But I mean, the point is they're really doing this. This man says, I will keep a word. I will do what you say me to do. So not a sentence.
Right.
I'm getting delirious. Okay. So they are risking their lives against pirates, storms, droughts, even came across a freaking goby worm.
They lost some people.
They don't talk about the worm.
No,
That wasn't even mentioned in the book.
you don't talk about the worm.
Too sensitive. Not over it. But the good thing is the one thing they had that really helped them was they had the golden passport. That's what I'm going to call it, because no one would touch them because they were on the mission for Kublai Khan.
It's like a hall pass for the
Yeah.
hall monitors that you come across. It's like,
Yeah.
no, I got a hall pass. Like,
Yeah. And so if they were harmed, they would face the wrath of the Khan. So you don't mess with them. So it's kind of
if
like,
you ever got word about it, it would be years later.
yeah, you're like, ah, shit. Well, they're dead. So when they were in Tibet, Marco Polo put lightly, quote, Tibet is a great place for a 17 to 20-year-old. AKA, he got laid.
Yes!
He yapped.
Ooh.
He yapped.
Yeah, good for you.
And if you don't remember that acronym from the last, that means you always fuck.
You always fuck.
Yeah. He yapped his way through Tibet. And I'm not just making that up because they actually went to Vietnam. And back in that day, this is actually pretty crazy. There was a custom that families wanted their daughters to have sex as much as possible before they are married so they can prove their sexual capabilities. So he absolutely yapped in Vietnam.
Hell yeah, good for him.
He had a
And
good
good for all
time.
those women out there if they wanted to, you know.
Well, that's my thing. I was like, wait, this is back in ancient times. And in Vietnam was like, please go have sex.
Yeah. I mean, as long as it's like, consensual. Hell
I'm
yeah.
sure most of it was and most of it wasn't. I'm sure it was a good half and half.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, compared to the times, the women in Vietnam were, I mean, that's a golden ticket to just be a hoe. And you're proving your worth, actually. I have to prove that I'm so good in bed so that way I can have the best chance with any man.
Wow. Enlightened.
Yes.
I don't know, but it's also kind of backwards and fucked up that like you have to prove that you're good at sex to.
Yes.
It's like half cool, half fucked up.
No, it is. And I'm just really going off the fact that like if a woman got raped, she would get stoned back in the day.
Right.
And actually, I learned this on My Favorite Murder. I was listening to a recent episode about this story in Italy about this woman who got raped by a mafia guy. And up to the 1970s, this was the law, by the way, in Italy, that if you were raped by a man and he asks you to marry him and you say no, you go to prison.
What?
If you get raped by a man in Italy and you say no, you will go to prison. And it wasn't until the 1970s they changed that rule.
What the fuck?
Yes.
So rape wasn't even a thing.
Rape was a marriage proposal, and you better take it. So I'm just saying, even to recent times, this shit was fucked up for women. So back in the day in Vietnam, I don't like that their worth has to be through sex, but I'm just saying back in the time in the 1200s, these women are get to have fun. Yeah. A fun way to get married, at least. And you know what? Marco Polo had a damn good time.
Hell yeah.
He ain't no virgin.
Hell yeah. What was your song for him? Oh. When you yaff through the town, then it feels
good all around.
Like good all around Marco Polo.
Marco Polo. When you yaff in the streets, in the bed, in the sheets, that's Marco Polo.
Marco Polo.
When the Khan tells you to go back to your hot town 10 years ago to get some oil, that's Marco Polo.
Marco Polo.
So yeah, Marco Polo had a good old time in Asia. So it wasn't all bad, except it kind of was, because it wasn't always a sexy, smooth trip for them. There were some deaths. While crossing present-day Iran, a caravan encountered some sandstorms and bandits at the same time, leaving some, I don't know if it's the same time. Why did I say that? God. What a horrible day.
I was like, wow, how did they do that?
Well, Iran wasn't great for them because sandstorms and bandits, and leaving some of the members of the caravan captured or killed. So the golden passport didn't work in Iran. Also, early into the journey, the two friars, the two monks they held hostage, they fucking up and left.
I don't blame them.
Now they're headed to Kublai Khan with not 100 men as he wanted. Again, he wanted 100 Westerners. And the Pope said no. He said, you can get 2 monks. The 2 monks have fucked off and left. Okay. So they don't have 100 men. They don't have the two monks. All they have is the holy oil of spatula.
Spatula.
So hopefully that's enough because this is one of the most dangerous men in the whole world, and you don't even have half the task that he asked for. So yeah, Iran, not fun. But after 3 years, they made it to Mongolia.
Wow.
And that, of course, is after the deadly Gobi Desert that they walk through. And they now enter the imperial court of Kublai Khan. And so they actually are going to be arriving in like modern day China, but like this is the Mongolian Empire.
Yeah.
They arrive in Chengdu, and Marco Polo is in complete awe of the emperor's expansive marble palace. And this was the Khan's summer palace they arrived in. And this place is like, you can't even imagine it. It is so beautiful and so luxurious. And apparently, the grounds of the palace were full of streams and fountains and gardens and birds and wild animals roaming around. They even have heating and cooling systems with heated floors in the winter.
You know what? I think some places did that because they were built over some type of like hot water stream that went under the ground and through the walls and stuff like that.
Oh my God, that's so smart.
They did it in some of the Game of Thrones houses, I think, at least in the books. They did that, but like way back in yesteryear, they had like underground, like I guess like hot springs or something. They would architect their house around it.
That is so cool.
Isn't that really cool?
Okay, that makes sense, but still, that's pretty crazy. Also, something that's very insane for this time period and for this place is that people showered.
Yeah, that is nice.
And they wore silk robes. You have to understand that people in Europe weren't showering up till like the freaking, I don't even know. So, I mean, just alone, like Marco Polo was like, oh my God, people are clean here.
He's like, wow, I can't believe I yapped with all those people back there.
What's crazy is when he met Kublai. So he arrives to the palace. He's in complete awe with like, it's just lush and there's animals everywhere and beautiful women. And then he sees Kublai and he's riding on his horse through the grounds with a hawk. And behind him is a snow leopard running behind him.
Stop it. Did they fall in love?
Kublai Khan and Marco Polo?
Yeah.
Not that kind of story.
Well, you had a great intro to it. They arrive at sunset and he sees him on horseback with an eagle and a fucking leopard tailing him. What?
Yeah, I would say it was like a sexual moment and more of a power move. So anyways, it was an insane scene to arrive in. At this point, probably just left the desert. So it was probably just like crazy to see all this lushness and life. Yeah. So if you want to see what a picture of what the temples looked like and what they think this place looked like, just go to my Instagram. I'll have posted it. The Instagram is at culturecultshow. That's where I post a lot of fun memes, but also things that have to do with the episode. So Xanadu. This is where Kublai stayed in his summers. It was the capital. And this place was also really cool because it was based off the Chinese philosophy of feng shui.
Ooh, yes.
It was just all things China, which he loves. And just every single detail was thought of with spirituality, with intention. It was incredibly modern and not just visually, but he actually would hold religious discussions between Buddhism, Confucianism, and other philosophies all the time here. And that's why I think he wanted to learn about Christianity, because this is like a discussion hall for him.
Yeah, that is so cool.
Yeah. So this is a big scene I want to talk about if you've seen the Marco Polo episode on Netflix, because, oh my God, again, they get it so wrong. So in the show, Marco Polo arrives and they're like taken hostage and they're like grabbing him and they throw him on the floor in front of Kublai, and Kublai like yells at him and he's like, "What are you doing here?" What happens is the dad offers his son up as a slave. In the show, the dad offers Marco Polo up as a slave to Kublai Khan, and then he goes through like all this torture. And that shit pisses me off because that's not even close to what happens. Kublai asked the dad to go back to Italy and come back. He has a lot of respect for him.
Yeah.
And then he sees Marco Polo and he sees this guy is like speaks multiple languages. He's super smart. So he has a lot of respect for Marco Polo. Marco Polo was never a slave to Kublai Khan.
Yeah.
How can you do a show and then not do it historically accurate? If you want to make an entertaining show about this, just make a completely different story. It's kind of like when people have chocolate hummus. If you want something, just do it. You don't have to take the name of something else. If you want chocolate dip, make some fucking chocolate dip. You don't have to call it hummus.
Why do you have to fucking mix it with the chickpeas?
Does it even have chickpeas at this point? But you made a chocolate dip.
Those are just hazelnuts.
My point is like, if you want to make an entertaining show about a king and a slave, just make a show. You don't have to
Yeah,
include Marco Polo and
true.
real names
You don't have to
story.
slap a name on it and call it historical fiction. Like,
I'm just having a lot of issues once I'm studying these stories and I watch movies on them and I'm like, why aren't they telling the real story?
that's a good point.
So if you watch Marco Polo, just again take it as a nice like vibe mood thing. Like it's showing what Mongolia might have felt like, but it's not accurate at all. So it also in the show, there's like a blind monk that's like fighting Marco Polo all the time. Not accurate, though that would be cool.
He did not exist.
No. Like Gobi Worm has more truth to it than the fucking show Marco Polo. Like, so anyways, what really happened was that they arrive and the Khan remembers them. It's been 3 years and he remembers them and he's like, wow, you're here. Awesome. And he throws
Yeah.
a massive celebration with 40,000 guests.
Oh my God.
Yeah. That's like a stadium.
I mean, that's a country.
That's Rhode Island. So he threw a party the size of a country for them. And he took a very strong liking to Niccolo, Maffalo, but especially Marco Polo. He ended up being like, hey, you made it here. Do y'all want to just come work for me and hang out with me in my palace?
Oh,
I know. So
how
long do you think they stayed over there in with
till death
Kublai?
do them part?
No.
Okay. 16 years.
How did you get that?
I'm a fucking psychic. Right?
Dude,
I don't know.
Danny, that's like,
Is it really 16 years?
Yeah, they stayed a whole 16 years.
Oh shit. That's awesome.
God, that's crazy. There's like a million numbers and you picked that one.
Yeah. I'm good at guessing.
Okay, what number am I thinking in my head?
8.
No, 31.
Oh.
I mean, that was hard, but there's a million numbers.
Yeah, that's all right.
All right. So during these 16 years, Kublai tasks Marco Polo to deliver messages and make reports on the other areas of the country because Marco Polo can just speak 5 different languages because his mom taught him.
Yeah.
Both of them actually have very educated mothers.
I was about to say, there seems to be a theme here with the Cobra Kai and the Marco Polo. Like, both of their mothers were very intelligent and clearly taught them how to be intelligent themselves and figure things out on their own to find the answers. They made both of them explorers and curious.
Yeah. And it helps them in their careers further on because they taught them that little extra step.
They taught them that knowledge is cool. Learning is cool.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So you probably saw him as like a little him.
Yeah. He really liked Marco Polo. Marco Polo even reports being a governor of the city Yangho from 1282 to 1285. And then Marco Polo's dad and uncle end up serving as military advisors and help Kublai win many battles.
Wow.
Yeah. He put a lot of trust in them.
He did.
Yeah. From people from a different culture from yours because they're strangers on their land.
I keep forgetting that like they're from a whole different country.
Yeah, exactly. But he's like, you're going to know all of my battle plans. You're going to be governing my government. You are in my system. You understand how my brain works. And I feel like, there's probably some people that have worked their asses off their whole life just to get this close to him.
Yeah.
And then these Italian guys come in and he's like, you can have all my secrets.
Oh, those other guys are like, what the fuck? Are you serious?
No, for
like,
real.
Literally, I trained my children to do this since I wasn't good enough for you. Like, my entire family's out here.
I wonder how they were taken in court. I wonder if people liked them and were curious or if they were like, fuck y'all.
Yeah, I'm curious too.
Me too.
Oh, I'd like to know that. Wait, so why after 16 years did he leave?
Well, we'll get to that.
Okay.
So, but yeah, through these 16 years, Marco Polo is having a fantastic time. He gets to enjoy all the entertainments and life of royalty in the court. There's live music, there's horse races, there's lots of sex, lots of yapping.
About to say, where's the yapping? Or is the yapping away?
They're yapping in the harems, and the prostitutes. And this is all at 20 years old. I mean, he is having a great time.
Yeah.
They even go, also, I want to say not all the women were like sex workers in this area. A lot of them were musicians.
Nice.
Which is cool. But for a big crossover episode, he also ended up watching a lot of wrestling matches and he ended up watching the infamous wrestling match of Princess Kutuloon.
Ooh.
He was one of the few people that wrote about her.
Wow.
Because he's like, this shit's crazy.
Yeah. This
What?
bitch is something, let me tell you.
Yeah, he was probably hearing about this and he's like, wait, I gotta go see this myself.
Yeah.
You know? So we literally covered her in the last episode. And if you haven't listened to that,
Oh my God, y'all, why the fuck are y'all here if you have not listened to it? Go listen to it. Stop this insanity. Go back and listen to it. Princess Kutaloon is the sexiest slut that ever lived. Go listen
Yes.
to her story. She's a warrior. She is a badass, an actual badass.
Yes. I actually have been using her as inspiration when I work out. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not kidding.
She could sling people over her shoulder while riding a horse.
She's no joke. I mean, there's a reason why Marco Polo traveled to go see her. So I also want to mention that this time period was so special that Marco Polo was in Mongolia. And that is because Kublai Khan, while he was over there, was about to do the most unthinkable thing people could think of at that time. He was going to reunify the kingdom of China.
Mm.
And you're probably like, okay, what's the deal? So that was Kublai's mission. You know, he's all about China.
It's like you read my mind.
Yeah, you're like, I don't give a fuck.
I'm like, lovely.
No, but this is a really big deal because China hasn't been reunited since the Tang Dynasty, you know, the Tangs. And the Tang Dynasty fell 360 years before. And if you're still like, okay, I truly don't give a fuck. This is not a simple task. For reference, America is only 247 years old, which is insane because that's not that long. And I bring this up because he was trying to reunite a dynasty from hundreds of years ago. So if you think back on the 1700s, that's a completely different time period from right now.
Yeah.
That's how it felt back then. That's how long of a stretch it has been since China has been together. And he was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to reunite this bitch.
Damn.
So that was his goal. And so this is not an easy task because that's like Britain being like, you know what? We're going to take America back.
Oh my God.
But that's what this sounds like. The Song Dynasty is powerful and it is weaponized as America is today. A really, really good history channel called the Biographics Channel. They said, quote, the Song Dynasty could collect around 1 million men. They also had gunpowder. This is like the 1200s. The catapults. They had siege engines, which essentially is a massive device that can break down castle doors. You've probably seen that in movies. They also had a navy with the largest amount of ships in that time of history.
Wow.
And Kublai was like, I'm taking them down. I'm going to reunite China. So again, that's like Britain being like, I will take America back.
Yeah.
With all of the weapons that we have and the people.
It's a bold ass move. Yeah.
He wasn't all about pursuing Europe. That was Genghis Khan's thing. That was all of his brothers' thing. But he was like, I've been saying for years, I will take China. So this is the time period that Marco Polo, his dad and his uncle are living in. And again, long story, very, very short, many, many, many bloody battles in between. He actually fucking did it.
What?
I know. I don't you love that I explained how he did it? It's such a great story. But
I love that.
It's such a good story. I don't want to go through all the battles because, like, do we have the time for that? Just imagine a lot of death.
Damn.
And if you're into the strategy of it, you can definitely go look that up on how Kublai actually accomplished defeating fucking China. By 1271, he reunified China and declared it, calling it the Yuan dynasty. And this is one of the most prosperous times in Mongolian history. So he takes it, he wins it, and then he makes it better. But let's talk about the pros and the cons of Kublai Khan. Kublai was great because he created an empire-wide postal service. Paper money was established. Freedom of religion was in place, which is crazy.
Wow. Yeah.
This is, again, the 1200s. You can practice whatever religion you want. You can't even do that in some places in society now. He was really about pursuing your own spirituality. So also very cool. Any language was allowed in court. So he also had some scientific advances that he made. He made highly accurate maps of China. He established institutes of medicine. He was all about promoting artisans, doctors, astronomers. And back then, those people were considered like kooks, crazy, or idiots. And he also really loved poets.
Oh.
So he's all about the arts.
He's all about culture. That's amazing.
He's all about tying the empire together with technology and systems and letting people keep their religion. Again, these are his pros. So right now we're like, fuck yeah. Let's do his cons. The con of a con.
That could have been better. Could have done so much with that.
Oh, what would you do with that?
I don't know. Like, let's list the Kublai Khans.
Fun point.
Thank you.
I'm not good at puns. I just tried something. So this man always loved China. Again, his mother taught him to love Chinese culture. But the weird thing is, he didn't actually like the Chinese. He was
Oh,
actually racist against them.
oh,
He likes their culture, but he doesn't like them. Kind of
huh.
like in the South or in general in America, when people like Black people's culture, they like their music, they love when they win in their football games and their basketball games, but they can't stand the idea of them marrying their daughter.
Right,
That's him.
right, right.
It's
It's like,
like,
no, no, I'm okay with it, but not when it's someone that I know or someone that's going to
yeah,
marry my
you're
daughter.
still beneath me, but still keep creating.
Oh, fuck that.
He made a class system. Mongols are number one. Two, useful foreigners such as Marco Polo. Three, beneath that, Northern Chinese, but they were heavily taxed. The bottom of the barrel are the Southern Chinese, which is literally where his like palace is. He believes they're like just scum of the earth.
That's sad.
Not great. So Chinese didn't really thrive under him. They were heavily taxed. They were treated like shit on their own land. And he just was like kind of a gentrifier. Again,
Yeah,
he took what he liked and then he like threw out the rest, the people.
damn. That's so weird.
It's like a fetish.
I was about to say, it's like, it reminds me of like a fucking serial killer. You know, it's like they have that extreme fascination and you think it's like an admiration, but then they go and kill the person. And you're like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? Where
Yeah.
did you see that coming? You
Yeah.
know?
It's a shame because I'm sure they were like, oh my God, he's conquered us. Well, he loves us. He loves China. And he's like, actually, no, I don't. I hate y'all.
It's just weird
It is
how
weird.
interested he was in their culture. And then, yeah, to have that kind of interest and what seemed like respect for the culture. And then to
Yeah.
not, yeah, that's just weird.
Why would you think they're lesser than you? They're the ones who created the culture.
You admired their culture. So
Yeah.
why? I
What's
don't get.
also weird is that he's all about like hearing other people's like languages and religions. That's more expansive thought. But then the fact that you
Yeah.
can't not be racist. So it's like two
Yeah.
sides of him are fighting. It is really weird. Some other cons of Khan. He loved his indulgences. He drank a lot. He ate a lot, and he yapped a lot.
Okay.
So he's not the best.
Every king ever.
Yeah, but I mean, it was really excessive, especially with the food and the drink. So he was just really obese. He became obese, actually. He was highly overindulgent. He would definitely cheat on you. And he actually was starting to get really bad temper tantrums. His life goes on. It just starts to kind of go downhill. He starts to get
Yeah.
tied up with disastrous wars. He started just to fail more and more and more. He had tried 2 attempts at Japan, failed, 2 attempts at Vietnam, failed at Burma, and failed all the way down in Indonesia. So
Sounds like he just became like a big brat where like he just nothing was enough for him. He just wants to take more, you know?
yeah. Well, there was like a thing that happened in his life that could have caused some of this overindulgence and like irritation and failure. He had two tragedies back to back. He lost his favorite wife and his eldest son between the times of 1281 and 1285.
How?
Again, the questions, I don't know.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
No, I mean, these are good questions. I don't know. I mean, that's good that he loved someone at least.
I mean, did they die together?
Seemed like they died like after each other, like one after another.
Just like back to back crazy.
I bet you like the son died and then the mom was like, I can't live.
Probably.
So what's happening with Marco Polo? It's been 16 years. They've seen this great Khan reach his highest, and now they're slowly seeing him decline and get fat and angry and fail, and he's turning into like a muck. And I'm sure they were like, can we go?
Is it safe to go? Should we slowly like back away when nobody's looking? Or
yeah, it's scary. So
yeah, because now that their ruler is like volatile and he's a little brat who's drunk and just wants to get his way, and he's gonna have a hissy fit, it sounds like.
So they lightly asked him. They're like, hey, this is cool. Love it. We kind of just miss Italy. And at first the Khan was like, hell no. He loved having them there, honestly. And Marco Polo was very useful. But eventually he was like, all right, okay. But only if you finish one task. He loves to do this. If you leave him, he will give you a task. That's his con of a con. You can't ever just leave. There's always a task.
Yeah.
So his task was, you must escort the most beautiful woman in the world, the Blue Princess. And I don't know if you remember her, but she was from the last episode.
Was she the guy that Princess Kudaloon wanted? Mm-hmm. His girlfriend was the Blue Princess.
Yes.
Got it.
Princess Kudaloon was in love with a Persian prince. But Persian prince was in love with the most beautiful one in the world, the blue princess.
Uh,
And Kublai Khan was like, your last task is to escort the blue princess to the Persian king. So he's like involved in that.
mm,
He's like involved in this. He doesn't even know. He's like, I'm just trying to get home.
yeah,
So it's just kind of crazy how all their lives are intertwining. So
that is weird.
Marco Polo was like, hell yeah, sure, whatever. I'll take the girl. Let's go. But this task was not easy. Again, with these tasks, they need to take a boat to Persia and drop her off, but it's far away. And over 100 people die on the journey. Only 18 people survive.
Oh my God.
The people that survive happen to be Marco Polo, his dad, his uncle, and the Blue Princess.
What the fuck?
So, but you know what? Guess what? Marco Polo finally made it back to Italy. It was a 24 long year road trip with his dad.
My God.
But what's crazy is like I have to cover his story again because that's like the beginning of his life. The rest of his life is somehow crazier.
What?
He gets involved in all these crazy wars. He ends up in prison. Like it's wild.
I love this. And I love how he just seems to be like randomly involved and thrown into these situations. And you're like, what the fuck are you doing there? It's like, oh fuck, who's that guy I always ran into from high school? Fucking Devin Carter. I would run into him everywhere at Auburn, everywhere I went. And like, I never even had a class with him since middle school, but in high school, his dad ended up being my history teacher twice. And then I go to Auburn and I run into him at every frat party that I go to at Auburn in random classes. Like I saw that guy everywhere.
I ran into Devin Carter at my cousin's lake house graduation party, and there was only like 11 people there.
He's Marco Polo. I'm telling you, something's going on.
Hey, Devin, what's up?
Devin,
where you at?
Where are you?
What if everyone on the podcast followed Devin Carter?
Any one of your listeners know who he is, I will shit myself.
Wait, okay, guys, can we all do something as a collective? If I find Devin Carter's Instagram, if I put it in the show notes, will y'all add him? I just feel like that'd be so fucking funny if he wakes up and suddenly there's like 40 new requests. He doesn't know any of y'all. Please, guys, as a collective group, can we do this? Because I think that should be fucking funny.
And then, because he needs to be led back to this episode somehow so that he can hear it and be like, you know, that is weird. I did see Dania everywhere. I did see Marie. What the fuck?
Wait, imagine if you were listening to podcasts and then they started talking about you.
Well, imagine finding just randomly one day you wake up with like 40 followers in one day and you don't even like go on Instagram and do anything. Like, you're not big. And then you're like, what the fuck? And then you find this podcast. And one day, because you're catching up, you end up liking this podcast. One day you come to this episode and it's like a conspiracy theory about you.
Okay, if you want to have some fun with us, it'll be in the show notes. Follow this dude.
He's a great guy. We never had any thoughtful conversations or anything, but I ran into him everywhere. And now apparently Marie has too. That is weird.
That is weird.
That's
Everyone
really weird.
Follow Devin Carter.
But Devin, if you're listening, will you come on one of the episodes, please, and discuss this and figure out why the fuck are you everywhere?
You're cool, Devin Carter.
You are cool.
You're cool. Cool point. Okay, so let's go to the real Marco Polo.
Okay.
So yeah, his life is crazy after this somehow. But Marco Polo, besides being a pool game and an app and a rap song, he played a huge role in Mongolian history because his book and his records are like one of the only records at that time.
Wow.
Princess Kuzulun's story may not have been told without him.
Wow.
You know, Kublai Khan's like reign might not have been told. So he's pretty important. And he also helped establish the Silk Road, which was like the trade road for centuries and still is. But how's our guy Kublai going? How's big boy? Yeah. Well, he died. February 18th, 1294. He didn't make it to the turn of the century.
But he did make it to Valentine's Day.
Oh no, his wife died. That's probably
but which wife? Didn't he have several?
His favorite wife.
Oh, that's sad. Yeah.
But yes, he probably had multiple. But he died February 18th due to obesity, gout, and his health just genuinely declining. His body was buried in a secret burial spot somewhere in Mongolia. So if you're into treasure hunting, go and find that. And that is the story of Kublai Khan, Marco Polo, Princess Kuzulun, Princess Kokochin, and Devin Carter in the same fabulous era in this ultimate crossover episode.
I want to be on the next Marco Polo. I am invested.
Me too. This man is cool. You have learned so much about Mongolia. When
I
we started
have.
out, you knew that it was next to Russia. That's all you knew.
And that's only because I looked it up.
Now, what has been your favorite thing you've learned between eagle hunting,
Um,
between the wrestling, between like Marco Polo?
I really like the yaks. That was really cool to learn about. And I don't know, I just love Princess Kutaloon. I'm sad she's no longer with us. I can't get over the fact that it seems like Marco Polo is one of those guys who just like shows up at every place, and it makes you really wonder like what are the odds that he's ending up at these big like
Events.
consequential moments in history
So
throughout his
true.
life when it doesn't seem like, so far from what I've heard about him, it doesn't seem like he's seeking these things out. They just are literally falling into his lap.
God, that's so true.
And he's probably one of those really cool people who are just chill and humble and like
Yes.
aren't like, yeah, you should have seen what I saw. Like, yeah, I
Yeah.
was at that party. No, it's probably like, yeah, no, I was there. Isn't that really cool? Yeah, like just so chill.
I'm kind of crushing on Marco Polo.
Right? He seems like a fun person because clearly the universe put all these opportunities
Yeah.
on his plate. So why? Why did they choose him? Is it just like that they knew he'd take it because he didn't have like literally anything going on? Like he grew up without his dad, and then his mom dies, and so he's left with like pretty much nothing. But he's
Nothing.
old enough to go on this adventure with his dad when he shows up all of a sudden. Is that really where it starts for him?
His life went from 0 to 100.
The day his father showed up, it went from nothing, no parent, no
Nothing.
close family.
What would his life been like in Italy? I wonder, would he still fall into crazy things because that's his destiny?
Right? That's a good question. Or would he, since he was like an orphan now, would he have gotten into like the hard shit, like gone down a completely scary path?
Mm. Well, his relatives were taking care of him, so he had like some aunts and uncles. But I think he would have taken like maybe a scholarly route because he was taught so many things.
He
Still,
was
even
already a teenager when his mom died, so that makes a difference.
take this experience out of his life, Mongolia. He's still, again, I want to spark notes. He still does all these like crazy, like he ends up in all these like wars. So
Is
some
it
of those,
and is it because though of this? Like, how did he end up in I
I
want to
don't
hear how
know. We have to
he
hear. We have to tell a story. We have to find out. But
I know. I'm dying to hear this. I'm dying to know how he ends up on these wars. Like, is it because of people he met from this adventure? Like, or is it literally so fucking random yet again?
I don't know. But I feel like Marco Polo is a little bit like Forrest Gump.
I love that. That's why I'm here for it. I
Not that,
love so humble about it, not
yeah.
bragging about it to people. How does all this happen to one person?
But I did say something about Marco Polo's character that like a king has so much respect for you. There's nothing but vibe checks right there where he's like, you know what? You're cool. And I actually really could learn from you. A king says that.
Hmm?
God, I actually want to look up why is Marco Polo a pool game?
It's got to be something with him and communication.
Okay. I'm just reading the very first article. Rumor has it that this simple game originated aboard a ship in the 12th century as a way for sailors to pass the time. While this hasn't been confirmed, we can confirm that it's a lot of fun. Okay, it's not a fact. Marco Polo is a great way to get a group of people involved in a game. Why is it? I know what the fuck the game is. Okay, what if on you remember how they had to take a bunch of ships everywhere?
Or it started in that sandstorm because no one could see each
Marco!
other. Marco Polo.
Polo! He's that guy where like they would make a game with his name and then it gets carried on for centuries.
Okay, listen to this.
Okay.
It just says the game shares its name with the 13th century Italian trader and explorer Marco Polo. There is no apparent connection between the game and the explorer, although, according to some, the famed explorer didn't really have a clue as to where he was going either.
Oh,
That's cute. I love that. Like, he just the happenstance.
that's really cute.
He just ends up in these places.
Hold on. I think I found something. This is from bustle.com. One origin claims that while traveling to China, Marco actually got separated from his family and responded with Polo as they called for him with Marco. Versions of the game date back to the 1700s, although it was originally landlocked and called Blind Man's Bluff. But just as Marco Polo himself took to the seas, when Blind Man's Bluff took to the water, the name stuck. So that isn't far off from the fact that we were saying in the sandstorm that he was like,
Yeah.
Marco! And he was like, Polo!
Could you? Why not say Dad?
Right?
If someone was yelling Danny, I wouldn't say Justice.
Why would you say your name back?
I would call their name back.
He is conceited. A little bit.
I don't know. Maybe he's like kind of like dumb. I don't know. Maybe there were so many Marcos that maybe that was a common name back then, so he had to specify.
That's so true. But I think one thing is close to being certain is that I think something did happen on that trip, and I think it became a joke and then a game, and then somehow it got transferred for centuries on.
Maybe.
What do you think is weirder, that or the fact that someone made a pool game and just randomly named it Marco Polo?
That's the thing, because I don't did our parents play that game, or is that like our generation started playing that pool game?
That's a good question.
I feel like that's more of an our generation thing came up with that game.
I'm gonna ask my grandma. I'm gonna ask Grandma Lolly.
Yeah, I want to know how long that game goes back. Google it. Between 1965 and 1970, some respondents to a Dictionary of American Regional English survey, when asked to name a game played in the water, responded with Marco Polo. So by the mid-70s. By the mid-70s, the game had spread and become very popular in swimming pools frequented by expatriates living in Hong Kong. So it started in America. They brought it to Hong Kong.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay. But why?
Yeah. Either way, even if it didn't start in our generation, it started very recent.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. Okay, we at least have an answer. I still don't know why people chose his name, but
yeah, I don't know either.
Okay, well, I'm glad you liked it. We'll have to figure out the rest of his story when I cover Italy.
Yeah. I want to hear about Italy. Yeah, y'all need to go listen to Princess Koodaloon if you have not yet. Go do that. Please, if you haven't already, send us a ghost story or a spooky, supernatural, anything paranormal, woo-woo. Please send it to us. I'm dying to hear them. I would love to read them. And we've also got some spooky stories of our own that we want to share as well. Mm-hmm. So we would love to dedicate an episode to that. In order to do that, we do need you guys to send in some.
Or you can do a voice note if you don't feel lazy and you don't want to write. You can literally just send me a voice recording.
Yeah, doesn't matter. Just send it to us. We would love it.
Is culturecultshow@gmail.com. The Instagram is @culturecultshow.
Nailed it.
Okay, I promise to cover the rest of Marco Polo's story whenever I get the balls to cover Italy, because if I cover Italy, that means I have to cover the Roman Empire. So, point is, I will get to covering the rest of Marco Polo's story at some point on the podcast, because his story is crazy. And just as Danny was saying, he's just like Forrest Gump or Devin Carter. Like he keeps appearing in these historical moments throughout his whole life. But with that said, I hope you enjoyed this ridiculous but fun series on Mongolia, from covering the bad bitch, Princess Kublai, to the life of Marco Polo and Kublai Khan. So to end this series of Mongolia, I had the absolute blessing to interview these two Mongolian nomads from the Mongolian Nomad Family series. They are on Instagram, they are on Facebook, they are on YouTube. I didn't know this when I reached out to them. They are huge on YouTube, like millions of followers. And they are also being flown around the world to talk about their culture. And so I did not know this when I reached out to them. And so they decided to come on the podcast and help share their life of what Mongolian nomad life is like. And I'm going to share that episode with y'all in the next episode. And I am so excited. And I think it's really beautiful what they're doing, because I think why they're so popular is because they're really connecting modern Mongolians back to their nomadic roots. They're reminding Mongolians who they are. And I think that's why they're so infectious. Not to mention, they are such kind, gentle, wholesome people. And I could sense that millions of miles away just through a Zoom interview. And I highly recommend checking out their YouTube if you want to pregame for the episode. Just type in Mongolian Nomad Family on YouTube and you'll find their channel. I will have their YouTube and their Instagram in the show notes if you want to check them out before we dive into the episode, because I'm super excited to share that interview. It was so beautiful. And you actually get to hear what Mongolia is like from actual Mongolians and not from me and my friends. So that's good. So anyways, thank you guys for listening as always. If you ever want fun times outside the podcast, in case you're into ridiculous and ruthless memes, or if you like to do polls, or if you just are really wanting a travel community, you can always follow me on Instagram @culturecultshow. And yeah, see y'all next time, y'all. Cheers.